Hey everyone, welcome to Edel, my little corner on the internet where we talk about topics that help us to get better. In case you hear any cooing or you see anything behind me, don't worry about that. Those are my little buddies. I live in the middle of the nature, so I have pigeons and squirrels that visit me every now and again. So back to today's topic. Today we're going to talk about a sensitive one. It is betrayal. Betrayal, especially in marriages. So let's give today's video a go. I hope you have your seatbelts buckled up.
Story time of how I found out about my ex-husband being a serial cheater and eventually figuring out that he was a narcissist. Just to go ahead and give you guys a quick timeline to catch you up to March of 2020 when my life completely changed. So August of 2019, I gave birth to my son. In October of 2019, I had the wedding of my dreams to what I thought was the love of my life. And in November of 2019, the day after Thanksgiving, my father transitioned to the next life with his battle with colon cancer. So during my whole period of my pregnancy, I was also dealing with watching one of the strongest men I know wither away right before my eyes. So it was such a bittersweet time for me, because while I was super excited to be carrying my first child and obviously my family's first boy, because I had two bonus daughters, so this was his first boy, I was watching my dad deteriorate, but also planning a wedding because his one request was that he walked his baby girl down the aisle and see me get married, which I had already been engaged for about 2 years at that time. We will go ahead and fast forward to March of 2020. I am dealing with significant postpartum. I am still grieving my dad heavily at this time, and I recognize that my body is not normal. My body feels exactly how it felt whenever I was first pregnant with my son. And I told my husband at the time, I was like, I can almost guarantee you that I'm pregnant. And to be quite frank, I'm not in a mental space to have any more children. It will be unfair to bring another life into this world and give them this kind of mother. So I went ahead and I called my OB. I took 2 at-home pregnancy tests. I went ahead, I called my OB and scheduled a appointment because I couldn't tell you how far along I was, honestly, because I wasn't having any menstrual cycles because I was breastfeeding my son. He was about 5 to 6 months, so I did not have a normal cycle at that time. So I went ahead and I seen my OB the week after. I took my 2 at-home pregnancy tests that were positive, and obviously, if you've ever had a kid or dealt with pregnancy in general, you know that your first appointment, they are doing a routine urine sample for STDs and to make sure that you're actually pregnant. After that, I was able to see my OB, and I was pretty honest with my OB, and I was like, hey, I'm going to be completely honest. I don't think you're going to be seeing this one through. I'm honestly just here because I need to see how far along I am to figure out what my options are. And he was like, okay. He was like, no judgment here. This was prior to all this banning abortion BS. And he was like, well, let me go ahead and see if I can go ahead and get you at least an ultrasound today so we can figure out how far you are. I luckily got in with my OB that day, and the minute she put that probe on my stomach, I tilted my head and I said, why does it look like there's 2 in there? She said, what do you do for a living? I said, well, I'm a dispatcher, because I was at the time. And she said, well, looks like you have a career in ultrasound tech, because here is baby A and here is baby B. For sure you can ask any twin mom about that nervous laugh that you do, because you're really not gathering what they putting down, honestly. And I knew in that moment that I was pretty much having those children. I always wanted twins. It was always the thing that I talked about when I was younger, and I was like, I'm just gonna have to carry this cross and figure it out. Furthermore, after I figure out it was twins, she then does all the measurements, and she gives me their due date. My due date for my twins was November 14th, which is very significant to me because that is one of my big brother's birthday. Probably the biggest protector out of all of my siblings. They would have shared a birthday. That's very significant, once again, because my baby that is here, so Jake shares a birthday with my brother that passed away, and my twins were going to share a birthday with my biggest protector brother, if you will. And if you're spiritual, that was a divine thing all in itself, that all those birthdays aligned moving forward. Once again, I completely changed my mind on not going through with the pregnancy. We were just gonna have to figure it out, and I was going to have 3 under 2, to be quite frank. And I mentally started preparing myself for that. And then the next day happened. And life as I knew it completely changed. Nobody will ever tell me that it wasn't my dad getting to that other side and seeing what was going on behind my back and knowing that he had to show me, and it had to be drastic for me to take those rose-colored glasses off. I trusted my ex-husband with everything in me. Like, I was taught to as a wife, especially as a Southern wife. That's what you're taught to love and be naive and think that the person that vowed their whole life to you in honor of you and to protect you was actually going to do that. And it had to be something that he could not weasel his way out of. He could not gaslight me out of. Because if you have ever dealt with a narcissist, you know that they will make you question your reality. And I had questioned so many realities up until then. This I could not question. And it had to be something that drastic to knock off those rose-colored glasses I had on whenever it came to him. My OB calls back. If you're a woman, you already know that's not a good thing. I go ahead and I'm like, hey, is everything okay? Like, did something else come up in my scans that you guys didn't see? And the nurse pauses and she says, hey, Miss Sampe, we're going to need you to come back in. And I said, well, what's going on? Well, you tested positive for this, and this. We need you to come in and get treated. I had not been with anyone else other than my ex-husband since 2013. We were in 2020. And my OB was calling to let me know that I tested positive for trichomonas, chlamydia, and gonorrhea. While I am very thankful that they were 3 STDs that were treatable, the shame, the embarrassment.
Whew, that's a lot. So I did a little bit of follow-up with her story because she did this in part 1 and part 2, and she much later now came to say that she ended up having I found a very interesting term online people were using. I thought it was rather strange. They call it stranger removal in place of abortion. So she did end up having the abortion, and what ended up happening was the husband did not accept that he had done all these things. She was so ashamed and embarrassed about everything, and she thought that they could, work it out because this is what she was taught to do. But at the end of it all, she was already betrayed, and she already felt that it was not okay. So she felt bad that she even found herself in a position to try and give this guy a chance. She ended up also, going out of the marriage to sort of make it even. But at that point, she said that's when she knew she had to divorce the guy because she had no business betraying herself, because she also has her principles. So that was that. But I am almost dumbfounded, which is a very rare occasion. But this is unfortunately something that happens a lot. And the fact that it is so shameful, you will find very few people talking about it. And the thing is, shame is something that really, it builds pressure in silence. So if you put things internally, it sort of morphs you into somebody else. You'll get so caught up in your head, and you start to create narratives that are not even true, and you'll start to believe them because you have evidence in your lived experience of what is causing you to feel this way. And because it is so embarrassing, humiliating, mortifying, shameful, name it, it feels that there's no way you can tell anybody about this because what will they think of you? But that's the thing. The moment we understand that shame literally disappears once we speak up and we speak out, that's when we realize where our power actually lies. We take our power back by facing it and naming it. The moment you say, I feel ashamed because of this, I feel embarrassed because of this, in her case, for example, she's feeling ashamed of something that somebody did to her. Can you just imagine that? And it just puts you in this place where you now isolate from everything, I'm sure she could not even have been the kind of mother that she would have wanted to be, because the child was a few months old. Like, how do you put your head around this? How do you still be around this person that has done this to you? And as if that's not enough, we're in a time where all this gonorrhea and syphilis, these are diseases now that are, the medication doesn't even work sometimes. They're resistant. I just saw reports the other day that these diseases are now resistant to antibiotics or whatever medication people have put on. And it's worse that this guy didn't tell the wife about this. She goes on to say somewhere in her part 2 that he actually got treated for those diseases, and he did not tell her that he had gotten treated. So he infected her, he got treated, and you know what happened again? He got reinfected from her. It's just a lot. So she sort of felt pleased with the fact that, you know, he went back to square zero. But this is not, it's not the kind of revenge that we should ever think that you've gotten even. This is really a matter of life. And sometimes, you know, death. So it's not something to mess around about. I don't understand what headspace her ex-husband was in or is in to do such things, and to not even have the decency to apologize, because she just says this guy never even apologized. He just kept accusing me until she found his medical reports that he had actually gotten treated before she was diagnosed. Just let that sink in. And this is a person that has a child with you. So I don't even want to think about him, because it's really rather upsetting. And it's so upsetting that the detriment of all this, she has to feel it. She has to feel the weight. She has to navigate through all this. And I'm actually so proud of her to have gotten out of that marriage, to put herself in a position where she has to be the mother for her son, that the son needs, and not in this perpetual cycle with this man just disrespecting her. And this is even beyond disrespect. This is just a lack of care for another person's life. You know, so I'm really proud of her. I think we should be very careful, even in a monogamous setup, which we can clearly see. She believed she was a good wife. She never did anything. We should also be careful with our partners. Whatever careful means in your relationship, I don't know. If you sense something, because she cannot convince me that she had not sensed that this guy was stepping out. The signs are always there. And the moment you choose to ignore and just put on rose-colored glasses like she says she had on, that is the beginning of your nightmares. So the moment you sense something, those spidey senses tell you that there's something up, it's usually because something is up. So take off the rose-colored glasses, put on your detective glasses, and find out. Don't just be told that there's nothing going on. And it's not only men that cheat. Even women do this, and they're masters at this. So it's not just I'm not bashing men. It's just that the story in our context today is talking about a man, but also men, be vigilant, be careful. The moment you feel like something is not wrong, it usually is because something is wrong. That's what I meant to say. If something feels wrong, it usually is because it is. So let's really not get to this point. This story has shaken me up. I tell you, it's shaken me up. But that's it for today. Thank you so much for being here. Share your thoughts with me in the comments. And remember, you're not broken, you're not damaged, you're not unlovable, you're not too old, you're not too far gone, and it's definitely not too late. Just start where you are. You've got this. I'll see you next time.